I think it's linking essentially personal transformation and social transformation, and I think the elements of that are obviously people would naturally expect meditation. That's the deepening, and then if you have the bookstore, then that becomes too contemplative too. Then essentially you have two shrine rooms. One is contemplating and one is meditating. And so I think the kitchen element or the cafe element, however we start, and the food element is more to do with the notion of body, and obviously people like to eat and talk. So it's those elements of taking care of the body, and we're talking with Gina about having more things in terms of health-related things. Mm-hmm. So I think you can have programs health-related, and as people are more concerned about, farm-to-table kind of things, you can have that kind of activity. But then also I think the conversation is that a place where people would come to discuss socially relevant things. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of like the notion of Aristotle's kind of polis, or you have a gathering where you talk about important issues. And I think, like, as a center director, you could host a dinner, or you could host a thing, and I think that should be an ongoing thing. People just come, and so it's not like there's a program. And I think you want to keep that as flexible as possible, and then would have certain programming that could talk about food and so forth. But I think you want that environment. So I think the bookstore should be there in terms of a stimula, as a stimula in terms of thought. But then you also need a place where people can not just be too quiet, but can talk a little bit, and obviously not disturb the meditators. Otherwise, what happens is that you're going to have a space that has lots of shrine rooms and nobody's coming, right, or they'll come at a certain point, and a lot of the centers are empty most of the time. So you want like breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner,
it's
coming.
More of an
active space, and then, but I think it's like after work, people say, oh, let's check out what's happening. Mm-hmm. And so that's, which is already.
Yeah, and so sort of like the bookstore part wouldn't be really big.
Right.
I mean, we could use this existing shelving, which would be actually
right.
quite nice.
Yeah.
So maybe be just like this here and
right.
there. It's
okay.
sort of, it's contained. It
right.
doesn't take up very much space.
Yeah.
And the thought would be that in the furnishing in here would be very lightweight, almost like cafe tables.
Right. Okay.
That could be cleared out if we want
right.
to, or brought back or reconfigured in many ways depending on what the event is.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be like a plush furnishings, but it would be uplifted, simple furnishing.
That would be good, and also it'd be good to have a table that might sit 8 or 10 or whatever it is, that you could host a dinner and you have 8 or 10 people. So I don't think the programs all have to be huge, but it keeps that energy, and I think that's something that people are missing from their lives. As people get more busy, they don't sit down and talk as much. And I think that then people think, and then I like to go meditate. But it makes a connection,
And they're complementary.
Exactly, yeah.
And this area, you may or may not know, is very close to the gallery district.
Uh-huh.
So we could just add, once every first Friday or something like that is a gallery opening, and we could open up this gallery to the same event, and could be
That's
part
great.
of the city in other ways too.
So the idea would be that things that we do here are our expression of basic goodness, and inviting in other expressions that whether it's Shambhala or whatever it is, to come in and be part of what we do.
Yeah, I think art is, obviously a very important part of developing culture, where people think and express themselves. So I think that's the nonverbal expression, and I think those things are good. And I think the main thing is that we have the vision from the beginning, as opposed to having a meditation center and afterwards say, oh, it's social, but so it doesn't quite work, right. Because the meditators feel like, what are they doing, or they're talking too loud, whatever it is. But if they know as a whole that it's all part of the component, right, then everyone's okay.
And so the idea would be that this whole area, as you go through the PMH, then is the contemplative area. There'd be some meditation instruction rooms, and the tenor room would be there.
Good.
It'll accommodate, I'm sure we could squeeze in more, but I think we could get on cushions about 100 people in this room. So I could see where we would have events that would exceed that in the future, but the question is, should we have a bigger shrine room, or is that satisfactory for where we're at this point in time?
Well, I mean, I think it seems like if you go beyond that you lose a lot of space for other aspects like classes, and I mean, is that what your feeling is?
Yeah,
You know?
and I think if we went, it's also, you know, heating and cooling a space with 150 people has its own challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So if in fact we dedicated, you know, there's a certain square footage per person, so you have to sort of calculate and see how big does the room need to be more than 100 people.
I mean, that seems good. 108.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cut it off. I mean, we are limiting programs right now. We have programs that are oversubscribed, learn to meditate and so forth. So we literally say, okay, 35 people, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you just had to have more programs and more divide up the space in different ways, because I mean, if you're at all mildly successful, it's going to be very busy because you're in a very good location, and you know.
One of the principles that I'm working with is that we make maximum use of the space.
Yeah.
So, you know, 24/7 would be the like one end, and like 2 or 3 times a week is on the other end. We want to be way closer to, you know, 8, 10, 12 hours a day that the space is being used, whether it's for a yoga class or Tai Chi class or an art exhibit, or, you know, all the ways that we can do that, provided we can have the human support to do it.
The shrine room is also, you want it to feel really good. And you don't want to feel like it's kind of like a compartmentalized room, and because there's a lot of kind of connect with that pure sacred energy. But if you feel like you're walking into a convention center that's been turned into a shrine room, then you know.
There's
If you have this very light energy here, and you have the bookstore and you have the cafe and you have that, then you also have like then you go down and have a nice room downstairs that has kind of this energy. It's going to make it seem less like a dungeon, because I think the overall effect is like this whole building is really light, you know, and so.
Yeah.